Imagine this. You want to make tea every single morning, but every morning when you wake up, you would have to reinvent the process of making that tea. So you ask yourself, how do I boil the water? When do I drop the tea bag? How long should I wait? That would be exhausting, especially if you do that every single morning, doing different steps, but the same process or the same goal. Now compare that to having a recipe card, where imagine you have like a card and every morning you just follow these steps. Okay, that would be easy, repeatable, and there's no extra thought to it. You just follow the steps and you do the tea. In Python, we do the same thing with functions. Also, they're like reusable recipes we give to the computer. And today in this video, I want to show you what does that mean. And we're going to actually write one together. So, all right. So let's jump into Python and I'll type this step by step and explain why each piece matters, just like writing a recipe line by line. Okay. So first we'll start by DEF, which is a short for define. We're defining a new skill for the computer. And then we'll give a name to that function or that skill or that recipe that we're calling. So that would be make tea, and then with parentheses and with colon, hit enter. So make tea is the name of this skill. Think of it like labeling the recipe card. I'm just giving a title for that recipe card. We're making tea. And then the parentheses is where inputs could go there later. So imagine you put the flavor of the tea, or maybe the cup size, or other inputs that you can do. But for now, we're just going to keep it empty. Okay. The colon is basically, I'm telling the Python everything indented below belongs to this recipe. So I hit enter and then it kind of give a space and move forward. So here I'm going to write print and then I'm going to put the steps. So we'll have boiling water first. Then print step number 2 would be adding tea bag. Okay. And then step 3 would be, let's say, waiting. I have to put the parentheses. Okay. Waiting. And then 4, it would be tea is ready. Okay. Tea is ready. Okay. So, and then I move here. Right. So now each print is a step. Boil the water, add the bag, wait, then announce the tea is ready. Notice, nothing happened yet. We've only written down the recipe. But to actually use it, we need to call it. And in order for you to call that recipe or function or skill, you call make, which is that's the title of it. And if you can see that, you can just hit the tab and then it'll complete it. And then with the parentheses. Now I'm calling the function. That's like saying, hey, computer, make tea for me now. The computer jumps into the recipe, runs every step, and then comes back out with some outcomes. So now if I run first, let me save it, and then I'll just run it. Here you go. Here's the outcome. Okay, so basically every time I call make tea, Python repeats the same steps. And that's the beauty of functions. And instead of copy and pasting, you just call the recipe. So now let me ask you this. What if I don't want the same tea every morning? What if I want a different type of tea? Let's say green tea today, black tea tomorrow. Now functions take inputs to make them flexible. So we can do that actually. And let's just do that with the same function. All we have to do is we're going to make some few changes. So first, we're going to add this time a parameter or an input. And the input is going to be type of tea. You can call it anything that you want it, but since we are focusing on different types of T, so I'll just call it type of T, okay? This is called parameter. It's like a placeholder for information, okay? And whenever I call the function, I'll pass in the actual kind of T that I want, and that is called an argument, okay? And then we'll get to that. So we'll keep that step, boiling the water, and then basically keeping all the steps. One thing I just want to add, maybe just to kind of make it look a little bit nice, is that we're going to add f string here, and I'll explain what does that mean and why we are putting that, and then we'll just call type of T. So what happened here? So notice I used an f string. That let me drop the value of type of T, which is whatever the type of T that we're calling, right into the message. So basically, let's say if we're calling green tea, the message will be boiling water, step 1, and then step 2, adding, and then green tea bag, okay? And then we can do that here too. So tea's ready. We can just say, for example, green tea or black tea is ready. So the way to do that, we'll also drop an f string in the beginning. And then inside we'll just say type of T, okay? And we can add something to make it look nice. Capitalize, and then with those parentheses, and then close it. All right. So the capitalize basically to make sure that the T name looks nice, starting with a capital letter. And like I said, you start with an F, and then you add the message, and then when you want to call the type of T inside the message, you just write type of T inside the brackets, and you'll see the result and the outcomes, okay? So then lastly here, we can call the function the same way, but then this time we have the type of T, which is we need to add an input. So let's, for example, call green tea. Okay, so we want to make green tea this time. All right, so let's save this and then call the function. All right, so what do we have here? We have, let's just do that. All right, so we have boiling water, adding green tea bag, waiting, green tea is ready. You see that there's a space here. I just corrected that. Let's just do it again. All right, so now we have it ready. So same recipe, but now with flexibility. I can make any kind of tea by just changing the input. So I can do that. I can literally call the function again, and then make tea. And then here I can just say black tea, okay? And then I save this, call the function again, all right? Boiling water, adding green tea, waiting, green tea is ready. And then do another step, boiling water, adding black tea bag, waiting, and then black tea is ready. That's very, very cool. So now we have the same recipe with flexibility, and I can make any kind of tea that I want just by press of a button. Or all I have to do is basically write the type of tea and then call the function, and it'll give me all the steps. So now printing is nice. As you can see that we used printing for each step, and that's nice. But sometimes I want the function to also give me the final result, and that's where return comes in. And here's the cool part. I can keep the step-by-step prints and still return a final result. And what I mean by return, imagine there's going to be return like this with the parameter or with the input or the result that I need from that function. Okay, so let's actually create some result and then try to return it. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to remove the print here. I'll just call result, okay, and then remove the parentheses of the print, okay. So these are my result. I'm going to call them here. I need those results, okay. So the first 3 print still show the process step by step. Then I build a result string, the final message. I print it so that the user sees it immediately. And then I return it so the program can actually use it later. Because the return helps us to return some of the inputs or some of the like parameters inside the function that maybe we can use it later with other functions. Okay. Now let's call it out. So the way we're going to call it out, let's just say here, let's just call a message equal to make tea, and then let's just call herbal tea, okay, instead of black or green tea. And then I'll just print stored message, and then I'll just call the message, okay? So let's run this and then explain it step by step, what we did. All right, and then here we go. All right, so we have boiling water, adding herbal tea bag, waiting, stored message, herbal tea is ready. See the difference? The function prints the process so we can follow along, but it also returns the result. That means we can save it, print it again, or even send it to another part of our program. And that's the whole goal of it, okay? And that's the power of functions. They let us package up logic once, reuse it as many times as we want, make it flexible with inputs, and even return results that we can use later for other functions or for the same function for the whole program. Just like a recipe card in the kitchen, write it once, reuse it forever.